Welcome to Align to Your Design. I'm your host, Baeth Davis. Isn't it time to wrap your business around your purpose and bring your greatest work to the world? Each week, join me as we explore various biometric tools such as human design and hand analysis and how to use them to fulfill your destiny and align to your design. We will reveal how to do the work you are designed to do rather than what you think you should do. Welcome, everyone. Baeth Davis here. You are attending Align to Your Design, the podcast where we meet people who I feel are aligned to their design, doing novel, interesting, unusual, creative, innovative things in the world. And you get to meet these extraordinary guests, and then we look at their human design chart. And that's how this show rolls. And we appreciate you listening in or watching, whether you're on YouTube or iTunes or wherever you happen to be. And please leave a review if you're so moved, and share this with your friends to introduce all these amazing people and the concept of human design, the system of human design, to others. Our topic today is a topic I'm very passionate about, and my guest today is very passionate about. And our topic is creativity for practical people. Our guest is Vivian Geffen, yes, of that family, and she is nationally known as a creativity consultant and improvisation teacher, and we'll be talking about improvisation because I love improv. Using her life model of creativity, she helps people navigate transition, which might be due to breakups, emptiness, and career dissatisfaction, by turning those jumbled and excessive thoughts about where you're going and what you're going to do next into synthesized and cohesive plans. I think we all need that when we're in transition. Vivian guides you to clarity to create the bridge that will take you from where you are now into what's next. She has degrees in business and creativity, and these degrees have supported Vivian's endeavors as a workshop creator and facilitator, speaker, and teacher. Her true magic lies in her ability to listen deeply so she can translate and feed back to you the depth and meaning of what you're saying so that you feel validated, heard, and able to think confidently and creatively about what is possible for the next steps of your journey. And with that, let's bring our wonderful, beautiful, amazing guest, Vivian Geffen, to the Align to Your Design podcast. Hello, Vivian.
Hi,
yes.
Beth.
Hey, so good to be with you today.
Good to be with you, my friend. Thank you.
Oh, I'm really, really excited about this topic. So right out of the gate, what led you to study creativity?
My motto is creativity is life and life is creative. And I had a yearning for more creativity in my life, and I just didn't have an outlet. I wasn't an artist. I wasn't a musician. I wasn't like a writer, something like in the arts that felt like, this is my creativity. Yet I was like, I want more creativity. I want more creativity. I want more creativity. And that led me on a journey to ask, well, how can I have more creativity? And I ended up with the question, well, maybe I can study it and learn, because what I really wanted to do was facilitate. So I found that there was, in fact, places you can study creativity. And I went and I got a master's degree in creativity. And that opened up the whole world of the creative thinking process. And so it becomes a way of approaching your life creativity, of embracing possibility, of asking questions, being curious. And from that, you can, find your way.
I love it. You can live creatively. So will you tell us what the acronym LIFE stands for? You have the
yes.
LIFE.
LIFE. Yes, that is honestly creativity. The process follows a natural path, right? So that is just how I've chosen to rename and make my model. So it stands for looking glass. So the vision piece in the future, what it is that I want, what's missing, that looking forward, the dreaming phase, looking glass. And then when you get a sense of that and start to notice what's missing, or what it is that you want, then you go to I, which is ideas, the ideation phase. That's how might I have these things, asking all the questions, looking at all the possibilities. And then when you hone down and you think this idea sounds good, this sounds like something I can work with, then you start to formulate solutions, formulate a plan. And then when you have the plan kind of developed, you can execute on them, take it out into the world, get your assisters, find out who your resistors are, get it out and get its legs and get it rolling.
And express.
Yes.
I love that. That I'll never forget that now. Every time I hear the word life, like your formula is very clear and it's very creative and it's very visual, which makes it memorable. So who influenced you along your path?
Well, you know what? I grew up in Los Angeles and I grew up, under the specter of Hollywood, right? So there was creativity around and there was just that model, not that model, but that world of otherness with the actors and the musicians and all of that. And so that idea of creativity really influenced me. But I didn't fit in there exactly. So there was that's where this kind of frustration, how am I going to find my niche? Because that's not going to be my life, but I want this creative expression. So I would say the whole blob of entertainment really influenced me. And then I've had some wonderful teachers along the way. One woman who I worked with for a long time named Camille was my first improv teacher and really helped me develop my style of improv, which is more about story and expression. And then, of course, the great teachings of Viola Spolin, who was the real grandmother of theater games, which is a lot of my teaching.
Wow.
Too.
Yeah. So improv. Let's talk about improv for a moment. So
yes, let's.
I love improv. I mean, improv has helped me so much to be able to think on my feet in all sorts of communication situations, not to mention that it's super fun because you don't know what's going to happen next. So why improvisation for you? What do you love about it?
So many things. Well, I guess I love, which points to its versatility, really improv as a tool, as a teaching method, as an approach to life. Is so, not synonymous, but goes so well with teaching the creative mindset because you have to remain open, work with other people's ideas, collaborate, explore, think about different ways. So it keeps you grounded in the present, which is very important, connected to others, and open. And all of those mindsets or ways of being are, part of the creative mindset as far as if you're solving a problem or looking to do things a different way, or if you're innovating and trying to come up with a new product, you need to be open to the world and other solutions. So improv, for that perspective, is a really great way to just train your mind to be that way, to accept what's given to you, to work with it, and to play along. And then also the confidence, just when you're playing improv, it's play, it's a game, and nobody's life is really at stake. So it teaches you to take risks, to risk looking funny, to risk saying, quote unquote, the wrong thing when there really is no wrong thing. There's choices. There's maybe better choices that will put a scene forward or not choices, but nothing. I always say it's not brain surgery, right? It's play. And then there's a whole world of applied improv, where working with different populations, where those skills help them in their, for dementia or integrating immigrants, or it goes on in businesses, team building, management, leadership, all of it. It's ways of, I guess, role playing almost in a way to help build skills, and to the magic of that. And that is the debrief, the self-reflection, the looking at how did I respond? What did I learn? What do I see? How is it applied here? So the reflective part. So it's a very versatile tool, and that's why I love it.
Could you share possibly 2 or 3 things that you discovered over the years doing improv that maybe surprised you about yourself?
Well, it's kind of vulnerable to say this, but I will tell you that I discovered that I like myself. Because I had such, very, very low. That's how I kind of got to improv, and that's why it was so magical. But this real deep insecurity and dislike and super self-consciousness. So when I could be in the moment, expressing myself and have laughter or feel witnessed or just play along, I enjoyed being enjoyed, and I liked the humor. I found myself funny. So that kind of level of self-acceptance, which really, and I think I just found my creativity. Like I found that in that yearning of wanting to be creative, I found that I was creative. And I also learned that I could speak. And actually, this might be a good bridge to human design extemporaneously pretty well, in which we come to learn right later on that I have that channel. So
yeah, your voice in the now.
Yeah. I was comfortable that way.
Yeah. I mean, the way you're wired is perfect for improv because you find the magic really in the moment, in the intuitive moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really prepare for that.
No, you can't.
You just only be present for it, and it arises. So do you have any suggestions to help engage creativity? And if so, what would you suggest?
I would suggest, number one, the very first rule of creativity or of improv, right, is yes and.
Yes and.
And so that is, what is yes and? It's accepting an offer and adding to it. So to notice for oneself if when they're in conversation or someone makes a suggestion or has an idea or puts forth something, if your knee-jerk reaction is to say no, but, or no, why, to notice that. And even if it's an idea that is not the right idea or it's not the right suggestion, to just pause for a moment and ask yourself, well, what could work there? Or what is in the nugget there that is being received? And is there anything inside that, like, oh, I don't like the big idea, but this intention or this suggestion or this thought or this kernel, maybe there's something here. And so not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And that takes a moment of mindfulness pause, or just practicing saying yes, and then building on it, or asking a question.
That's great.
Instead of just saying.
Just opening to it.
Yeah, well, opening to, notice that you are, notice if you're someone who just automatically says no, notice that. And instead of saying that, take a breath and be curious for a moment. Is there anything in here? Why would this person be saying that to me? They're probably well-intentioned, hopefully. Like maybe they're seeing something in there. So just getting a little curious. Mm-hmm. So receiving, then getting curious. What could possibly be in this suggestion?
Right.
If I had a moment to think about it. Or even saying thank you and taking it away and thinking about it, So right. Receiving, getting curious, being with it for a moment. Those are all ways to develop your creativity, because creativity is really essentially, taking pieces from other ideas and repurposing them, or seeing what's useful, what isn't, how some other industry or piece of nature or person solved a problem, and what did they find that maybe you could use in your way. and developing something new out of that. So getting inspiration from, and you can't really be inspired if you're saying no all the time.
So what's one of the things that surprised you the most in learning about and teaching creativity?
Well, I don't know if it surprised me, but it liberated me was just the fact that creativity is not limited to art or painting or writing or music. Those are artistic pursuits, but they are, and so art and creativity are very like, oops, there's my lips, people, there's a conflation of the two. And so when people say that they're not creative, they're often talking about that kind of an expression. And that doesn't mean that they're not creative. It just means they're not doing that. So opening again to how you approach the world, how you approach a problem, how you might interact with your child, or the way you might solve a issue for your family or for your school or something in your community or in your life, that engages creative thinking, creative problem solving. So that insight for me, I didn't know. And that was really when I went to school and I studied and I learned that. And then that was my big aha. And I was like, okay, that is my way into working with people creatively and how to have more of it in my life, even though I am not a painter or a singer.
What, if someone were to create, say, a daily habit or a several times a week habit around expanding their creativity, what are some tips that you could give to our audience in terms of developing that creativity? Maybe habits they could foster if they want to, that you found helpful.
Having a playful and curious attitude, saying yes, you playing little games with yourself, like this is a fun improv game, but alternate uses like this, you could just entertain yourself. Okay, what is this? Okay, this is my mustache. Okay, this is my antenna. Okay, this is my little looking glass. So just playing with yourself, finding an actual game to just get you out of your different mindset. Reading about different industries or different subjects, different topics, and looking for things that connect or are similar, or how you might borrow something, or just trying to get yourself inspired. Spending time in nature, taking walks outside, journaling, asking yourself different ideas, anything that you can do that helps you remain a bit open and exposing yourself to new concepts. There's a whole discipline of people who study nature and how nature solves problems, and then they take that and they use it for industry. But it's fascinating.
Like, what are some of the things
I teach improv. I teach improv, so I'm always looking for new games. I'm engaging in that way. I do those things. I'll read. I'll get inspired. I'll spend time in nature. I'll play with my dog. I'll look for ideas. I'll have conversations. It's my approach. It's how I am now. It's sort of like people who are 12-steppers, right? And they work the steps, but eventually you're living the steps, right? You're breathing. That's how you are in life now. Oh, I apologize for my mistakes. Oh, I take responsibility. It's not like, oh my God, I got to go right into, this is where I have to take responsibility here. It becomes part of who you are. So it becomes who you are as a creative, a curious person, looking for connections, not saying yes, looking for what works at the moment. So it's an orientation.
It's great. It's great. Well,
does that make sense? Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. So
did I give some?
You did. Yeah, okay, that was great. Tips. You absolutely did. So let's talk about human design for a minute, and then we'll have a look at your chart. Okay. So what was your biggest insight so far because insights keep coming. But what's been your biggest insight so far about your human design chart, and how did it affect your process in life?
Well, have we talked about what my signature and what I am?
No, we haven't. Should we start there? Talk about that?
I think so.
All right, just give it context. Yeah. So for those of you new to human design, Vivian is a projector, one of the 5 types. They're the manifestor, the generator, the manifesting generator, the projector, and the reflector. Projectors are about 21% of the population, and you have an aura that goes forward that's very penetrating in terms of vision and knowing. Of all the types, the projector sees the truth with clarity and without a lot of emotion. It's one of the things I appreciate in projectors. They really can give and receive feedback without it breaking their spirit. You can really get into it, right? You and I can get into it. I always get it. My mom's a projector. You can get into it with a projector. You can debate, you can argue, you can suss things out, and the projector's not going to fall apart because ultimately you see the truth. So the truth is the truth, whatever it happens to be in your experience. And there's just kind of a resting in the truth there as a projector. So the projector really has this incredible truth-telling capacity and this incredible vision. So that's the first thing. And why don't I'll just bring up your chart and show everyone why.
I have a story. Can I tell you a story?
Yeah,
about that?
tell the story.
Because my communication is very direct, and I have I have been asked to tone it down, and it's very hard. But so I was in a meeting once, and this gal sat down next to me, and she was chomping on her gum, and I was trying to listen, and I couldn't listen, and I was inside. I was like, "Oh my God, I have to ask her to stop, or calm it down, and you got to do it nicely. And how am I going to do it nicely?" And we're back and forth. So I turned to her, and I just gently put my hand on my knee, and I say very nicely, I go, "Excuse me." And she looks at me. I go, "You're chewing like a cow." And this flesh come over her like nice, and then shock. She went. And I was so mortified, but I was like, that's
awesome. I love that. Because it's true.
It was true, but the shock on her face, or like recently I had an old friend come over, and he was always so much younger than me, and now he's in his 40s. And I guess I said to him, I don't remember saying to him, I said, "Oh, you're not pretty anymore." So when he came over again, he's like, "Last time you were here, you said I wasn't pretty." So sometimes the directness is a problem.
Yeah. You blurt. That's great. All right, I'm going to find your chart here. Besides, people can't laugh at themselves. They need to
on the flip side, that's what makes me a great coach, right? Is because I can listen so well and like I said in my intro, synthesize and reflect what's really being said. So
that's right.
Hearing what's inside, what's being said, and making sense of it.
That's right. So what makes a projector is that, first of all,
no motor.
Well, some projectors do have motors, but no sacral. The sacral is not defined in projectors, manifestors, or reflectors. No sacral. Reflectors have no definition in the centers. And a manifestor will have one of the other 3 motors will connect up to the throat. Here we have a very straightforward splenic projector. Your spleen is defined because the gate 57, the gate of intuition, connects right up to gate 20, the voice in the now, which is why you blurt. I have 5720 as well, and you and I both blurt out true statements, and they're not always packaged in the way the other person really would like to hear them. And so it's being mindful of the blurting, because we can control it if we are aware of it. But there's times when in improv, for example, it's absolutely perfect because what blurts out is so unexpected. And it makes for really great humor, and it makes for really great storytelling. I mean, this is a This channel is a blessing to anyone who needs to communicate spontaneously in the now, because this is what this channel does. And for you, it's your only channel
Right.
in your design. And so essentially, you have a lot of concentrated energy on the spleen and the throat. Which if we just took this chart in without knowing what the numbers mean or whatever, just we're talking about the centers in that one channel, your life is about intuitive communication. It's about communication in the now, and it's about many different kinds of communication. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or no, 5. Let me do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 gates active off of the throat. So there's a huge need to communicate, and because the gates want to connect with their open opposite, you absolutely need to be connecting with groups of people, because that enhances what you're able to communicate. And it'll be so good when we can all get back together in person, because a big part of being human and enjoying the experience is being in the auras of other people, is being in the energy fields physically of other people, because we can have a certain connection over Zoom just from the sound frequency of our voice. So our voices do carry a frequency that allows us to connect to some degree, but it is in no way near the kind of connections possible when we meet in person. And you have a very, very open chart. So I always ask guests before they come on what their question is about their design. And what you and I were chatting about before the interview is, how does motivation factor into purpose? So before I say anything about your chart, will you share with all of us what motivation means to you?
I'm having this intuitive thing happening as I was looking at the chart about my question, because I think, can you go back real quickly?
Sure.
I feel like what's coming out to me today is the G center. Like, I have no relationship to that G center. And I guess if I had a question today, my question might be, how could I integrate, or what's missing, or what's there that might serve me better?
Okay, that's a great question. So the G center is the magnetic monopole. It essentially holds us together in form. And when it's undefined, in your case, it's undefined. It's called undefined because you still have 2 gates active, the 1 and the 2. It would be considered open, like your solar plexus is totally open. A center is totally open when there is no gate activation whatsoever. It's totally open. Your G center is undefined. So there is the 1 and the 2 gates are reaching out for a connection with their opposite pole. The 1 wants to reach to the 8 and the 2 wants to reach to the 14. So we'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about having an open or undefined G center. So if it was open, it would look like your solar plexus. It would have nothing lit up. Open or undefined in the center means that you're open to more conditioning. So that's the shadow side of it. There's a challenge there. And the conditioning with the G center is, what is my direction in life? And who loves me? Does anybody love me? Where's the love? And if you're asking those questions, it'll lead you astray. The other question that the undefined G center or open G center is often asking is, who am I? And you're never going to get a good answer to that, because who you are is so fluid depending on who you surround yourself with. So the most important thing for the undefined G center is that you surround yourself with people who can lead you places. You're going to get direction in life from the people with the defined G center when this is colored in. And when it's defined on someone's chart, it'll be colored in yellow. It's always in yellow when it's defined. So you have to be so selective about who you let lead you places. And this can be something as simple as, hey, Vivian, I found this great restaurant. Let's go eat here. And you're like, okay. Or your spleen says, because your spleen is your authority, and the spleen speaks in the now through your senses. So it will always give you instant information. I mean, you might get a yes to the restaurant and then halfway through the meal say, yeah, I've got to leave. And the other person says, why? And it's because my spleen says, I got to go. I got to go. And you may not even know why, but then you get home and then you find it, maybe your dog wasn't let out and they need to go out. Like the future will show you why the spleen is giving you this information in the now. And it's just absolutely trusting that. But back to the G center, you really never want to ask, who am I? What's my identity? Because you're not ever going to get a solid answer. The gift you have, and all people with undefined or open G centers have, is the ability to feel into the identity and direction of another person. So you may not know where you're going or who loves you or who you are, but you sure as hell do know for other people. And so when they talk to you, you can see very clearly where they're off the mark, where they're deluding themselves, where their opportunities and skills lie. It just becomes crystal clear to you who loves them and who doesn't, who they are and who they aren't. Now, over time, obviously, you've established a sense of yourself as Vivian, where you like to live, what you like to eat, your relationship with your dog, your family, your friends. There's an identity there, but it's not something that's going to give you a lot of confidence like someone with a defined G center. I have a defined G center, so it's never occurred to me to even ask, who am I? It's like, well, I'm me,
Interesting.
of course, right? I'm me, of course, it's me. So someone with a defined G center has a lot of direction, has a lot of confidence. And what we're able to do, if we're correct, is provide confidence and direction to the undefined G center so that you can be led, invited to places and with people that support and sustain your natural effervescence. And so the thing you have to really look out for with so much openness in your chart is being around any kind of negative Nellies. Like, it's just bad news for you, because you get so impacted by it. And then you can start thinking, oh, maybe I'm the negative one. But very clear, just from our short interview, your essential nature is creative, is open. I mean, you're so open. And you may have had to learn some defenses even over the years just because of other people's energy penetrating you. And you suddenly would feel, well, the totally open solar plexus, for example, suddenly feel emotional and not know why. Or the undefined root suddenly feel pressured to take action and not know why. Or, the sacral, like never knowing when enough is enough and pushing yourself too hard. So it's really all you can trust in is what's defined. So the only thing Vivian can really trust in is her amazing voice and that splenic channel that's just giving you impulses always in the now. Always, you're an in the now person. Some people aren't. I should not make decisions in the now. It's better for me to wait. And it's just better. It's just better for me to wait, right timing, ride out my emotional stuff. But you don't have that. You don't have that. So one other thing to your question. The one gate is creative expression. And I find it so fascinating, and you have the one gate, that the very first gate number one, is creative self-expression. That is the number one gate in the design. The one gate could have been anywhere else. No, the number one gate where we start in terms of identity is expressing ourselves. It's foundational. It's fundamental. And when that ability to express ourselves is interrupted, right, is thwarted, I think that's the main reason people get depressed, become addicts, become suicidal. Like, yes, they may have, right? They may have trauma to work through, that can affect it. But if someone has a healthy, creative life, they can work through so much and stay healthy and stay present. I mean, I know for myself, my body got sick when I stopped dancing. I look back now and I'm like, I know it in my bones. Had I kept dancing, I would have sailed through those problems, but I had moved to a new place and there wasn't a dance community and I didn't expend the effort to find one. And I really should have, because it was the place I could go. No words were spoken and I could work that shit out. And so staying healthy, number one, you must be creative. I mean, I think there's an old saying, I don't know if it's Aboriginal or Native American, but it addresses illness, and the shaman asks basically, well, when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop running out in the fields? Right? When did you stop being creative? That will pinpoint your onset of illness. Now, for you, you have this one energy multiple times. And so this gives it extra emphasis in your life.
Oh.
You have one in Neptune, line 5. So it's being a leader, a facilitator, a manager of the creative process. And when it's when it's in Neptune, it's going to be emotional. It's going to be about the watery depths of ourselves. This isn't a superficial approach to creativity. It's a real digging deep and figuring out, who are you? What do you feel? What does matter to you? And the further planets out, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, they're all a little weird. They deal in some pretty heavy stuff. And the goal really is to excavate Neptune and Uranus and Pluto and bring it up. But for you, it's in Neptune. And Neptune, of course, was the god of the sea, Poseidon, also known as Poseidon. And so when we're dealing in Neptune, we're dealing in water. Now, the shadow of this would be you'd be a very good candidate to be a drunk, because that's the shadow of Neptune, especially when it ties in with creativity, because if the creative person feels thwarted, they want to drown their sorrows. So I'm always aware of like the creative and the alcohol, because they often match up. Because initially the alcohol gives the person that liquid courage, but then of course over time the benefits wear off. And on the other side, you have Neptune in gate 1, and this time in line twice.
Wow.
You have it twice. Now, the reason your chart has so much openness is you have a lot of duplication of gates. And when this happens, Vivian, it's going to make you very intense. It's a setup to be a very intense personality. It can't be otherwise because the energy is so concentrated. Right? So your Neptune is concentrated on creativity. And I'm just going to share with you.
It's so interesting, because that's what it felt like intense need.
Yeah.
Before I figured out how to have it, but yes, it's like intense.
Very intense.
I love it because I have, what this class I created called Evolutionary Improv, and what you described, I'm going to have to go back and listen to it, because that's really what happens is story excavation and movement and voice and people going into themselves.
Here's what Ra has to say about Neptune. Illusion, spirituality, and art. A great teacher who demands total acceptance. Neptune in any gate veils its potential. This veiling can deeply disturb the not self, as it is not possible to see through the veil, and we lose the ability to see any limitations, which can lead to abuse. Surrender to Neptune. Leave it alone, and you allow the potential magic to emerge from behind the veil. You also learn a great deal about the nature of surrender. So your creative process is about surrendering to the unknown and just seeing what pops out from behind the veil when it feels like it. When it feels like it. It would be different if your creativity was in Mars, right? Mars is the it's a passive force, and then it gets rolling and it can be very aggressive. It's a very different energy depending on what planet the gate or celestial position the gate is in. So having your creative energy in Neptune is this mystery, and it's deeply spiritual. It's magical even. It's very magical. So I'm looking at, this is the definitive book of human design. So in the back, it has every single gate with all 6 lines. And you have Neptune in gate 1, line 5, which is I've circled on the personality side. So this is the energy for the other. And then you have it for yourself on the design side in gate 1, line 6. And so here are the keynote words. Line 5 is the energy to attract society. The power and drive to stay with the creative process. And then line 6 is objectivity, clear assessment of creative value, clarity and creative expression. Right? Now, the shadow of this, if we go back to the personality side, is eccentricity can handicap your endurance. Eccentricity that, though attractive, will limit the drive. So it's like being weird, but not so weird that you see people are, turning away from you. It's like finding that balance of like, you can keep them engaged, right? You can keep them in it. And, that just comes through experience. I mean, I find you.
I'm not that weird.
Well, how would I describe? I wouldn't describe you as eccentric, actually, but I do experience you as very fluid in your creativity. There's a wildness to you. There's a unexpectedness to you that is very compelling. And then line 6, the objectivity, you have to be objective, because if you get subjective in your self-expression, if you get too self-involved or crying in your cups about it, it will lead to creative frustration. So there's a way that your creative process is very much about bringing yourself along with others to the masses and creating things where other people are involved. And it isn't self-indulgent, which doesn't mean it's never personal. But even when it is personal, you have a larger mission, if you will. You have a larger impetus to share whatever the story or the play or whatever it is you're creating, right? You're wanting to make a larger impact with it. So there's creativity off your G center. And so there's this huge drive in you for self-expression, but you're looking for the 8, which is the talent manager. Gate 8 is the individual that helps you bring your contribution to society. So you definitely need someone with gate 8. Because 8's the contribution. That's when the art gets out to the masses. That's when it contributes to the larger group. So your 1 is looking for people that have that gate 8 because they can distribute the information for you. And then
Interesting.
And then gate 2, you provide direction to other people, even though you may have no idea where you're going, because you're waiting for people to invite you as a projector, and you have an undefined G center. So, I don't know where I'm going to go to. The invitations will come. When you're dealing with other people, though, that 2 knows where to go. And it happens to be in Venus. So this touches into what's important to your heart. The Venus location is about love and intimacy and what we're devoted to. And so line 2, the receptive, the direction of the self. So first, gate 1, right above it, right, is the creative. It's the expression of the self. And then gate 2 is the receptive, the direction of the self. Receptivity is the primal base through which any response is determined, the root of action. The root of action is to be receptive. Yes, and. Yes, and. And your 2, line 4, secretiveness. More than modesty, the ability to preserve harmony through discretion. And you can see you've got the up arrow, so you have the attribution here when it's in Venus. The higher goal transcends personal acclaim. The team player, acknowledged as the leader, but never the captain, where higher knowing does not have to be expressed to be recognized. So people recognize you as a leader, and this is for you to know. You don't have to prove yourself, and you shouldn't even try. You are naturally seen as a leader in any situation you step into, and people will look to you for direction. And so it's important that you own that, because if you come in with the not-self G center, looking for love, looking for approval, looking for people to, give you an identity, essentially, or reflect to you who you are, you lose your power. Versus going into situations, being aware, I don't really know who I am. And it doesn't matter, because who I am is to provide direction for you. Glad to be of service. And so when you come from that place of confidence, it's a whole different ballgame, because now you're walking into situations and I have nothing to prove. I'm simply here to be this resource, this fountain of creativity, and this energy for direction. But it must be through receptivity. It must be through what comes towards me. Thus, I do not have to do anything except be receptive and then respond accordingly to what's coming, which frees you up a lot. Right?
Yeah, that feels like,
yeah, you don't have to put all of this pressure on yourself. It's not helpful for you, because you can only do things in the now correctly. You're not a past person. You're not a future person. Some people's designs, they're very much focused backward, and some people are very focused forward. And I mean, you have a bit of that in your design, some focus on the past, some on the future. Of course, it's necessary. But your essential nature is, I am invited. My spleen tells me yes or no. If I say yes to an invitation, I show up, and the rest will reveal itself. Because what's interesting about your human design is that your motivation isn't really a motivation. It's called innocence. And innocence isn't really a motivation. Innocence is the ability to see the system. It's line 6. It's the roof, essentially. It's the role model. So the way you motivate people is to be up on the roof, seeing the big picture. It's the director, in a way, knowing where things go and what will make something work or not work. And you don't have to have an agenda for this. You're simply able to see the big picture. And so when appropriate, the big picture is revealed by you. But your life isn't about driving hard towards goals. You're a 2-5 profile up here. So the 2-5 is the hermit heretic. And so you have to be called out by others. I mean, so much about your design requires other people to say, hey, Vivian. So they call you out, and then the 5 can kick in with the humor and the leadership and the heresy. But it comes through all those invitations. Meantime, the 2 is a natural artist. It is it's called the natural, the 2 energy. Naturally creative, can't explain how you do it. You just do it. So the theme in your design over and over and over again is, while you're waiting, be creative. And eventually somebody will invite you somewhere, even if it's just to lunch. And if you blurt out the right response, right, you're gonna get going where you need to go.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to listen to this again. It's so interesting because it feels so affirmative, and yet, that conditioning piece, so much of the values, I guess, I was raised with, or the approach to life, would conflict with those things. So there's that, you can see sort of the root of the internal struggle about how ways I made life difficult for myself.
Right. Well, of course. I mean,
which is sad a little bit. Yeah.
It is a little sad. But the good news is, today being the first day of the rest of your life, you can do it the way you want to do it now.
But I love what you said. Who I am is to be direction for you, resource for energy direction, which is pretty much what I said in my, it's like I've finally come to some of these places and have landed in them.
Yeah.
So
It's great. I'm so happy for you.
Just need to be invited. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have an invitation for you. What do you, we'll give out the links, but what do you have going on right now if people want to find out more? What's happening?
Well, I started offering a weekly improv gathering that I'm not calling a class, but it's a gathering, and it's devoted to fun and improv and collaboration and just like a way to unplug. I started it at the end of the year when we were all in the election drama and all of that, and it was so intense. And of course, the pandemic. And I just was like, oh, we got to have some fun. And I didn't get to facilitate too much last year. So out of my innocence, I said, I just want to do this. And was going to be a one-off. And now it's been an ongoing thing. So for the time being, it's ongoing, and it's called Laugh Boost. And it's on Eventbrite, but you'll give the bit.ly link.
I will.
Right?
Yeah, I'll give out the link for sure.
So that's a complimentary weekly gathering, Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time.
And you said Thursday at 4:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
As of now. And I'm also wanting to get my evolutionary improv class going, the deeper one.
Yeah.
The one that sort of you described about going into story and the more Neptune-y thing. So I'm collecting names.
Wonderful.
For people who want to do that journey.
Wonderful. It's great. Well, Vivian, any final words of wisdom for us today?
Oh, are we done? Gosh. Any final words of wisdom?
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Let me just contemplate for a moment. Well, you know what really wants to come out, and I think this is for me, but I'll share it with the listeners, is it's all going to be all right. It's all right. Like, it's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Beth.
You're welcome. This has been another episode of Aligned to Your Design. Thank you all for being here.
So densely packed.
Enjoy. Share it with your friends. Leave a review. And we'll see you all later. Bye for now.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Aligned to Your Design. If you did, please grab my free report, Business by Design, at yourpurpose.com, and then join our Facebook group, Align to Your Design. See you next time.